welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, you may notice that we're in a different location. Behind me is not my bookcases, that's because I'm sitting down in the living room. Today I'm going to be doing a 24-hour reading vlog, and this is typically where I do a good chunk of my reading in my reading armchair by the window in the living room. Also, this means that I can keep a little eye on my kitten Rengar, who'll probably be jumping in and out of the video. He'll probably be running about mad, playing, or sitting up there sleeping. So I've angled the camera so that if he does go for a little nap, then you'll be able to see him because he's very cute. And there he goes playing. So I'm going to be doing my 24-hour reading vlog in little stints rather than 24 hours in a row, and that's because I'm a gal that needs their sleep, and also I don't think I could read for 24 hours straight and actually pay attention to what I'm reading on the page. I think I'd be zoning out and half asleep, so there's no point in that. I'm going to instead be doing it over a couple of days probably, so I'll be reading for as long as I can and be recording it with a timer and read for 24 hours in total, but not 24 hours straight. I will be reading initially The Well of Ascension, which is book 2 in the Mistborn trilogy, as well as Good Vibes, Good Life. I'm currently reading these two books, so I'll finish these two. I think I'm about 100 pages each into both of them, so these will keep me busy for at least a good couple of hours for the start, because I'm quite a slow reader and this is an 800 page book. So if I've got 700 pages left, it's going to be a long time that I'll be reading this book for. The next book that I was going to read, I was maybe going to leave it up to mood reading or tackle something for my 23 and 2023 list. I'm pretty sure I have a video of my 23 and 2023. So if you're interested in the books that are in that list, then yeah, check that out. But I put a poll on my Instagram and the Fourth Wing won by a mile. I've borrowed that book from my sister and she did mention that if you're going to be reading it, you should read it when you have a good chunk of time to read, because it's not a book you want to put down. So doing it during a 24-hour reading vlog probably makes sense actually. But I was hoping to tackle some things for my TBR and was planning on reading that in September. I might see how I feel after reading these, because I might not want to read another fantasy book, or I might want to get straight into the third book of the Mistborn trilogy if it's ending in a way that I'm really wanting to know what happens next. So we'll see, but there is probably a good chance I will read The Fourth Wing during my 24-hour reading vlog. I can't believe I've not read it yet. I think I am one of the only people on BookTube and on Bookstagram that hasn't read it yet. So I'm excited to read it. I mean, it's a book about dragons, what's not to love? But let's not focus on the book that I'll be reading after these books. Let's instead get down to reading. I'll probably do an hour or two of reading and then jump out and grab an iced coffee and do a bit more reading. Yeah, I've got some, oh, there's Rengar. I've got some people coming round to see Rengar today, so I will be taking pauses when he's got his little visitors too. But I think I will have a good time to do a good chunk of reading before anyone comes over. It's 12 o'clock, but yeah, let's go. I'm an hour and a half in at the moment. I've got 21 hours and 32 minutes left and I have just finished this book. I'm currently unsure how I feel about it. I do really like self-help books. I do believe that we should be living life with a positive outlook, because your outlook can change how you perceive things that are happening around you. If you look for positives, you'll find more positives, etc. I don't really vibe, good vibes, good life. I don't really vibe with some of the things that were said in this book. Some of them I just completely disagreed with. But I do also enjoy reading books from different people's perspectives. I like reading different points of view and such, because how are you meant to learn new things if you're only reading things that you already agree with? So for example, if all I did was read self-help books of things that I already knew, things that I already believed, then I would just be reinforcing what I currently know rather than expanding my knowledge elsewhere. elsewhere. So I'm trying to look at this book as a way of opening my horizons into other ways of thinking about things. But some of the things, I don't know, I just didn't really vibe with it. I am going to take some time away to have a think about how I feel about this book. So I'm not going to rate it at the moment. I also find it really difficult to rate non-fiction and self-help books and things like that because my ratings are typically with fiction books in mind. But I didn't dislike it. I didn't dislike it. And he did have a very good way of writing that was really engaging and easy to binge. It is also very short chapters and stuff. It's a really short book because, as you can see with each of the things, there's quite a lot of spacing and stuff, and yeah, the chapters are really short. So it was nice, quick, easy read. But yeah, I'm gonna get onto reading The Well of Ascension. I think I'm almost finished part 1 of that actually. But before that, I'm going to go and watch the F1 because it is race week.
More rain, we need to hold on to this inter tyre, and one of them appears to be doing it, and one of them maybe not so much, because Perez has done a 1:24.4 and Verstappen's done a 1:22.
So I'm chilling on the other couch now for watching the F1. There is currently a red flag on the race, so I'm going to use this opportunity to get a bit of reading done, but I do hope that the race starts back up. It'd be really nice to see someone other than Verstappen win, and if there's a restart, that could actually be possible. So I'm about 20 more minutes in and I finished part 1 of this book. At the start I was finding it a bit slow and couldn't really get into it, and that's how I felt about the first book as well, but I was thinking because we've already done quite a lot of the building that the second book wouldn't be as slow to begin with. But I mean, it is a thick book, so I guess it is to be expected that it is a bit slow. But the ending of part 1 now has me hooked again. So I am so excited to read this. If you've read it before, then you'll understand why I've gotten excited around the end of part 1. It started getting interesting again. I will probably do a little pause after I finish each part to kind of film my reactions during the vlog, and also with it being such a long book, if I waited until the end then I'd be reading for hours before giving an update. I'm on page 121 and I've only finished the first part, so we're still talking 120 pages probably until I get to the next part, and yeah, that will be at least 2 hours or something of reading. So I'll see you again once I have finished part 2. Good morning. It is now Monday morning and I have read for a little bit this morning, but no one wants to see that. No one wants to see me in my pyjamas first thing in the morning reading. So I waited until I had the motivation to get dressed to film. I have read for I think 6 hours now. Yeah, I've got 17 hours and 54 minutes left. I didn't realise how much reading for 24 hours was. This is going to take a while. I read for 5 hours yesterday and I've read for an hour this morning, and I'd said that my next check-in would be when I finish part 2 and start part 3, which is the part that I'm at now. I thought it would only be a little bit, but it was 200 pages for part 2. Part 2 was quite long, so I was just reading for a long time without a check-in. But I can feel that this book is now fully set up for what's about to happen in the final few chapters. It's been a lot of build up, a lot of politics, a lot of information to build up to this point in the story, and I have enjoyed that build up. I really enjoy world building and plot building, especially in fantasy books. I find it very interesting. And Brandon Sanderson, oh, do you like it too, Rengar? Brandon Sanderson's writing style is super easy to binge, and I absolutely love the main character Vin. I really enjoy her, so it's good to read her. Brandon Sanderson's writing style is really good. It's really bingeable, actually. I've only read The Final Empire before this, and I'm finding it super easy to get through, even though it is like a super thick fantasy book. I think reading it continuously as well has been helpful, like keeping in line with the story, because it is so big. It's easy to like pick up and put down and read it over a long period of time, but I'm really enjoying binging it, and thankfully it's not so like complicated that it's hard to binge. So it's like perfect for this 24-hour reading vlog. I will be checking in again at the start of part 4, which I think is like 150 pages or so long. So part 3 is like 150 pages long. I don't know the best way to give updates on this other than I guess my reactions, but I don't want to give away the storyline because I want this to remain spoiler free. But yeah, Vin's character development and Ellen's character development throughout this has been so good. I am really enjoying how the relationship between each of the team members is developing. I can't say much more without possibly spoiling the first book, The Final Empire, as well, because there's some things that happened at the end of that are brought through into this book, so I can't spoil anything. But yeah, it's really good, and I'm really excited to continue it. So I'm gonna have a bit of breakfast and read a bit more, and then probably jump out for an iced coffee or something this afternoon, because getting an iced coffee motivates me, I guess, to keep reading. And even though I can make iced coffees at home, you know, it's not the same. I'd much rather pay a ridiculous amount of money for someone else to make it for me. Let's get reading. So I've just finished part 3. I am about to start part 4. I'm just finished up to page 468, and I've got just over 15 hours to go. Like I said in my last checkup, I didn't realise how long 24 hours is, and also didn't realise how much of it will be taken up by reading this book. Like, I've seen people do 24-hour readathon, like reading vlogs, and they end up reading like 7 books. And realistically, if I'm reading this and then The Final Empire after it, I'm probably only going to be reading like 3-4 books or something, because thick. But yeah, what's just happened at the end there is not what I expected at all. Like, the option of what just happened didn't occur to me as an option. Like, technically it was obviously an option, but like, without giving anything away, basically there's an event that could have ended in 3 different ways, and I thought it would have happened one of the other 2. I didn't think that would happen. I hope that doesn't give anything away. I'm trying my best to not let it give anything away. But yeah, I didn't, well, it could have ended in more than 3 ways, but like, yeah, 3 main ways that I had thought could happen. But I'd kind of disregarded one of them, and it happened. So I'm a little bit shocked, but in a good way. I like when a book kind of like has those twists and turns without it actually being a twist. Like, it's not a twist. But yeah, it's getting more and more into it. I'm not enjoying it as much as The Final Empire. I think that that's just because like The Final Empire did a lot of the world building that I really enjoy in fantasy books, and this has been centering a lot around politics. And as much as it is interesting, I'm kind of wanting a little bit more of what we were given in the first book. There has been a couple of battles and stuff, which has been really interesting to read. It's really good reading about Vin and Ellen's relationship as well. As I said previously, there's further developments in that in the part that I've just read, which is yeah, very interesting, as I said. And yeah, I'm hoping that the next two parts will build up to what I'm kind of expecting-ish to happen. Like, I think the plot is going in a specific way. I don't know what's going to happen based off of it, but I'm really hoping that it happens, because I don't want it, I don't want to have to finish this book and then it happens in the third one, or it doesn't happen at all. Yeah, but right now I'm feeling like it's not a 5-star like Final Empire at the moment. I'd say it's like a 4, maybe a 3.5, 4. But from the ending of the Final Empire, I can tell that when Brandon Sanderson's writing, his like last pages are like really good at concluding everything, but not in a fast way either. It's not like, it doesn't feel rushed. Yeah, so I've still got 300 pages to go, so there's still a lot that can possibly happen. And my little reading buddy Rengar has been accompanying me for a lot of this as well. He's just down here at the moment. I'll show you him. Let's see, there he is. He's been on my lap a lot of the time, but yeah, he's now just cozy there. But it is now 2 o'clock and I'm going to go and get some lunch. So it's now 4 p.m. I've not done any more reading since I said, but I went out for a really nice lunch with my partner, went browsing for some books, and I actually didn't buy any, so proud of myself for that. And yeah, now I'm back and I've got like an hour before I go climbing, so I'll get a good probably like 50 to 60 pages more of this book read, and I am hoping to have it finished by today, but that might be a little bit too ambitious. We'll see. So I'm not actually sure what time I was at when I last checked in, but I am now at 13 hours, 42 minutes and 24 seconds remaining. The timer at the top, I've had to do 2 of them, so that's why it's not 24 hours. But yeah, I've got 13 hours and 42 minutes left to go. I have finished my climbing session and that was really good. I think I would really struggle to do 24 hours straight, because I don't think I could read for 24 hours straight and take in what I'm actually reading. Like even today, where all I've really done is read and do a few other things. I have been breaking it up specifically because if I sit and read for too long, like I think the most I could read is like 3 hours straight before I'd need to get up and like do something else. I struggle to do much more than that, and it would be a bit easier probably with a thinner book, but reading this book total is probably like 13 to 14 hours for me. So like spending so much time on the one book where a lot of it is like building up is really difficult. If I was just reading like a 300-page book, then I would finish it in like a couple of hours, so it wouldn't be as much of a commitment, if that makes sense. But yeah, I am currently on page 535 of this book, so I've got like, I think like 250 pages to go. I'm probably not finishing it tonight because it's already 9:15, but I'm gonna read until I think I get to part 5, and then I'll finish part 5 tomorrow morning before work, maybe, if I get up early enough. So I've just finished part 4 and oh my god, I both want to keep reading this to find out what happens, and also don't want to keep reading it because of something I think is going to happen and it will make me really sad. Oh, bless you. I at the end of reading that part was already feeling myself starting to get a little bit sad thinking about what I think is going to happen in the next part. If anyone's read this before and they know what I'm going through, then yeah, reach out please. I'm a bit worried about part 5, but I'll be finishing that hopefully this evening, so I'll be finishing this book I've got like a couple of minutes over 12 hours left, and it is Tuesday. It's Tuesday evening. I finished work and had my dinner and such, so I'll have a good few hours to sit down and give this a read. So let's go. So this is going to be a very super quick update. I didn't realise that this was 6 parts. I thought it was 5. But I've just finished part 5 now, and I'll be going on to part 6. It made me tear up a little bit. Part 5 made me tear up a little bit. I didn't cry, but I felt myself like getting close to it at a point. But I thought it would make me cry. Maybe I'm just not emotional at the moment. I've got, I think it's like another like 60-ish pages left, so it'll take me probably around another hour because I read quite slow, maybe slightly more than an hour. I've got like 9 hours and 54 minutes left, so yeah, this should take me to about the 9-hour mark, and then I'll be picking up another book. I will hopefully be finishing this tonight, and then I can think about picking up the next book tomorrow morning before work. God, these 24-hour reading vlogs are so hard when you've got a job, man. I finished this last night. I was going to record last night I guess like thoughts about the book, but I finished it and then literally passed out like immediately because I was so tired. I'm now, I think at like 8 hours and like 45-ish minutes left, and I am 2 books down. I'm going to be reading Fourth Wing next, but before I get onto that, let's discuss this book. Oh my gosh. I thought that part 6 would be just like, you know, bringing everything together, because part 5 was kind of like, felt like the climax and then just kind of like ending it. But Sanderson is a genius, and he's done it again. He's done it again. Where somehow the book works as a standalone book, but also perfectly seamlessly integrates into a series, and I think that's like so impressive. Like, I could have read this book without having read the first one and without reading the next one and still be somewhat satisfied. Like, I wouldn't understand fully what was going on, but yeah, it's impressive to me. Like, I feel like I kind of got the conclusion, but also it set it up perfectly for the next book as well. I was considering reading this for the last part, like the 3rd book of this, for the last part of this video, but I only have like 8-ish hours left, and the books are like 800 pages long, and because I am slow, it'll take me longer than the 8 hours and 50 minutes I've got left. So I think it will be the Fourth Wing, and I should finish that in time, and if I've got a bit of extra, then I might try and read like a short story or something, or I guess start a book and not finish it. But I feel like it's nicest to, hello Ringer, I feel like it's nicest to conclude all of the books and give like my thoughts on them. So I absolutely adored this book. I don't know if I liked it as much as I liked the first one. I don't know if it's a 4 or 5 stars, but maybe like 4.5. I don't normally do half stars, but maybe I make an exception for this. But I guess it's just trying to determine what I rate it on Goodreads then, since that's the main place that I do my reviews. I don't know, I don't think anything was missing for this. I think it was well paced. There was a great build up to the climax. The climax, like, kind of, it didn't take too long, but it also was long enough that I wasn't feeling like, oh, that built up to nothing. And the ending of the book, like I said, was both kind of good and conclusive to what happened in this book, while also setting up for the next book, which I really enjoy. That it's a cliffhanger, but it's not, if that makes sense. So yeah, the writing style again was great. I loved the characters, I loved their development and their stories. I love the use of magic within this. I love that he's using, I've used the word love like 100 times here, man. Like, obviously I loved this book. But yeah, I adored, there we go, better word, you know, that's why I read so much, so I've got more vocabulary. I adored the use of the metals for the magic. Again, I feel like it was even better this time because I already knew, kind of, like I remembered from the last book what each of the metals did, so I didn't really need to use the back where it has information on each of the metals and what they do as much. This book I don't think I used that at all, actually. it's so easy to get into despite it being like a kind of complicated magic system within a complicated world in a fantasy book. Normally, I read a lot of fantasy, so it's not like difficult for me to understand, but sometimes for some fantasy books it takes me a long time to get what's going on, and that hasn't been the case for these books. There was again a little bit of romance, which I appreciated, but it felt like a very much a side part of the fantasy. It definitely is not a romantasy, it's just a fantasy with like a tiny sprinkle of romance. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading the next book, but reading these, because they're so long and there's so much like politics and information in them, I kind of feel like not drained from reading them, but I wouldn't be able, I think, to read all three back to back in a row without feeling overwhelmed by it. So I'm glad to read another book and maybe read a couple short books before concluding this. I also don't really want to finish the series because as much as I love finishing series, I love like getting to the ending and the conclusion, I also never want a series to end when I really like the characters, and I love Vin and Sazed specifically from this, and I never want to stop reading about them, so it's also sad, I guess, that I've already finished 2/3 of the series. But yeah, would highly recommend to anyone who is a fan of Sanderson, hasn't read this, or is a fan of fantasy in general. Would not recommend it really as a starter book into fantasy because it's so big, but I guess if you're kind of into romantasy and want to dip a toe into fantasy, then The Final Empire, the first book in this, is probably really good to dip your toes in, but it's kind of beginner friendly, kind of not. Anyway, like I said, I have 8 hours and like 45 minutes left, and I'm going to be reading The Fourth Wing next. I'm on my lunch break at work at the moment. I don't know if I'll have time to start it. I might need to do it tonight, but I've got the theatre tonight, so we'll see. I'm so busy this week, and I don't think I've really thought this through. I thought I'd be finished my 24 hours of reading before we got to this point. But 24 hours is a lot of reading. So I've been busy the last few days. I had a show in the theatre, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, on Wednesday, and I do a pole fitness class on a Thursday. So with that and work, I've not really had much opportunity to read since Tuesday. Today's Friday, and I have a gig tonight, Blink 182, and then and then tomorrow I'm going to the theatre again. So yeah, and then I'm on a trip Sunday to Wednesday. I don't think I thought this through for the 24 hours, where I was like, how? I thought I would read it, like finish it before it came to the Wednesday. But by that point, I think I still had like 8 hours left or something. I think I've got like 4.5 hours left, which is good considering I've not had much time to read recently. But I don't know if I'll be able to get all of my reading done before I go on my trip. I'm hoping I can. I think I can. If I get up early and read tomorrow, then possibly. But yeah, I'm reading Fourth Wing at the moment, and I am 193 pages in. It's starting to get really good. For this book, I think it's actually a really good starter book for people who are reading like fantasy for the first time, because it's super quick to get into it with not much world building, so it's not as difficult for people to read who aren't super into fantasy. It does, I'd say it's romantasy rather than fantasy as well. It's got like quite a big romance kind of in it. It's not romance yet, but you can tell that there's gonna be like proper romance, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so I'm actually really enjoying it. It's a lot lighter than The Will of Ascension, which I read last. It's a lot easier to read, like the words are bigger on the pages and everything like that. The topics aren't as dense. It's feeling a bit easier, and it's exactly what I needed. I needed something that was like easy read, page turner, and that's exactly what this is. So I'm hoping that that means I can binge it and finish my 24 hours before I go away. I believe in me. I have like a little bit of a lunch break now, so I might try read for like 20 minutes or something, and then I don't know if I'll have time to read before the gig tonight. But we're gonna try. We got this. Hello. I haven't even dried or brushed my hair, so apologies for that. But I have packed for going away this weekend and tidied up and stuff, done my chores. So I now have a little hour before I head out that I can do some reading. I have like 2 and a bit hours left for my 24-hour reading vlog, so some of it will need to be done while I'm away, I think. So that means I'll need to take this big chunky boy down south with me. But we are driving, so it doesn't really matter in terms of like weight and stuff. So I'll probably be filming the end of this from a hotel down south. I also want to do a reading wrap up for August and what I'm going to read in September and stuff, so I'll wait and see when I'll do that. That might need to wait for later. But so I'm going to get a little bit of reading done for The Fourth Wing. I am like 250 pages in and it started to get really good actually. Like, I'm invested. I quickly got quite invested actually, and I absolutely love Violet and I love Xaden, so let's go. So I've finished my 24 hours of reading, so technically this vlog is finished, but I actually wanted to include finishing The Fourth Wing. I'm technically I think just about 25 hours into my 24-hour reading vlog, so I guess I lied. It is actually indeterminate number hour reading vlog. I think it will probably be about like 26 to 27 hours in the end, but I was like 2/3 of the way through this and didn't really want to stop there. I wanted to finish this so I can give my opinion on it and kind of have a chat about it at the end. So you can see Rengar playing with his little toy over there. So it's tomorrow and I finished The Fourth Wing. I tried to film my thoughts about it last night, but Rengar was not having it. He was not having it. I think I might put a little clip of what he was doing and you can see why I could not record Fourth Wing, and I really enjoyed it, but I think I would have But yeah, I finished The Fourth Wing and I enjoyed it, but not as much as I thought I would. It's been so hyped and it's been really highly recommended by a lot of people. So I was kind of going in expecting a 5 stars, and you should never go in expecting a 5 stars because normally you're not going to walk out with that. For me, it ended up being a 4 star. I enjoyed how like quickly it got into the action, but also as a fantasy girly, I do enjoy world building, and the world building just wasn't really there. But the plot was really good. So it was easy to still get like into the story and enjoy it. I did like the main character, Vi, and I quite liked her dynamic with Xaden. And most of the characters that I did quite like actually, and let's be honest, the dragons stole the show. The dragons completely stole the show. They were so funny and sarcastic, especially, I'm not going to mention actually anything in case I spoil anything here, but especially these particular dragons that were quite central to the story. I absolutely loved them. Their personalities went deeper than the actual characters' personalities for me. They hit different. I love that. It is a great book for people, I think, that are like either not that well acquainted with fantasy or really like romantasy. Romance was like a really heavy part of this story, and I do like romantasy books, but I don't think I expected it to be so romantasy. But I still enjoyed it. I still really enjoyed this book. Like, I don't know how to like say I really enjoyed it, but I was a tiny bit let down. And that is, I think, just what happens a lot of the time when there is a really hyped book. It is hyped for good reason. It's hyped in my eyes because it's really easy to read. It's great for people who aren't really even that much into fantasy to get straight into it. It's not complicated. Like, a lot of things that are happening are really like obvious and easy to follow, which is great in a story, especially if you're not looking for something that's like really complex. One thing is, I think it's marketed as YA and it's not YA. I've heard a lot of people say this book is not YA. I think they're creating a new genre. I think my sister was telling me about this, that's new adult, and I think this would sit firmly in new adult. It's strange because a lot of the concept in the book and the writing, I'd say, are YA, but it gets to a point in the story where you're like, this is not YA. It's not YA. But then again, I did read like the True Blood series and stuff like that when I was young, so I didn't read YA. But this is kind of marketed as YA, and it's not really. It is a really good book though, like, don't get me wrong, as much as it missed a few of the marks for me, I am a big fantasy reader and I'm really into like high fantasy books. So I went in expecting a lot from this book, and it is only like just under 500 pages. So it's not like super long or anything, especially for a fantasy book. But it is loads of action and it's super, super easy to get through, like complete page turner. I would recommend it. I would definitely recommend it, especially to people who are wanting to dip their toe into fantasy and don't really know where to start. And dragons. I love dragons, especially these dragons. But yeah, technically not a 24-hour reading vlog. I think it ended up being like 27 hours. So I did lie a little bit, but I felt like I had to complete the books that I was reading. I wasn't going to read a book and leave it like half finished. But yeah, that is my first 24-hour reading vlog. Thank you so much for joining. I think I'll do more of these at some point. It was super good to get through, especially The Will of Ascension, because it's super thick, and I got through it so quickly because I was like, I need to read for 24 hours. So I was reading for like 5-6 hours and stuff like that a day, which for me is like quite a long time. I'm more of like a consistent reader for like an hour a day, an hour or two a day, which is how I accumulate the books like that I read and how I get through them. But I don't normally sit for such a huge chunk of my day and read. And it was actually really nice. I think it'll be even nicer in like the cozy seasons that are coming up. So I think I'll do like a 24-hour reading vlog, but make it maybe in October, specifically like witchy books or specifically like horror books and things like that. So let me know the genre or season that you think would be best to do a 24-hour reading vlog for, or a combination of both. Any suggestions are always welcome. But yeah, this was really fun to film. Thank you, bye.